acquiring the strongest abilities after saving a girl from an evil group of wizards. And at the beginning of the anime we see Takashi living with his completely disturbed and dysfunctional family, and they hate the fact that he has to go to school every day, even during holidays, just to not be around them. His luck is that his girlfriend, Kurumi, always accompanies him to school, where they are members of a club sword fighting. On a normal day, when Takashi is about to enter his dojo normally, an injured girl falls from the next room. He panics and goes to help her, taking her to the school infirmary. When the girl begins to recover her senses, she starts to cry, telling her brother not to leave her while hugging Takashi. He is confused but gratefully accepts the hug, even though he already has a girlfriend, until the girl herself opens her eyes and mistakes him for a pervert, as she is the one who hugged him. So she pulls out a pistol. I say how crazy lyrics. She gets nervous and shoots him with her magic weapon. Luckily her aim is horrible, and that's why she only grazes him. She breaks down after finding out that Takashi brought her here to help, and introduces herself as Mui Aiba, the girl who came to steal him from his girlfriend. Out of nowhere Takashi notices a glowing smoke around her and asks what hell that's it, and she immediately apologizes, because if he can see the smoke it means he's become a magic user. Suddenly a black butterfly enters the room and she shoots it down, saying that this was a magical drone sent by her brother who wants to kill her. Mui now wants to run away like Takashi, but then her super nervous brother appears with his gang. Takashi tries to escape using the window, but they freeze it using their magic. The guy with the gang sword wants to fight with them, and Takashi takes out his bamboo sword to face him, and even managing to stab him in the chest. The big guy's fragile ego ends up being hurt because of this, and he attacks Takashi recklessly and pushes him back, ending up cutting his bamboo sword. At that exact moment Takashi's hidden powers awaken, and he can see a future movement of his enemy, his hand to disarm him. The giant sword flies at Mui, who barely manages to dodge it but narrowly dodges to escape, taking Mui with him. They hide in a pillar, where Mui tells Mui Takashi that she is a mage, just like the other people who are behind her. After that she apologizes and says that she turned him into a wizard when using her ability around him. Takashi takes advantage of the situation and consoles her, saying it's okay, come here, the father is single. So Mui opens her mouth and starts to tell how this anime works. She says that most wizards are feared by normal people, so they keep their identities secret, and her life changed completely when one day her brother decided that he would join a radical group called Ghost Trailer, which aims to eradicate all normal humans. At that moment Takashi's girlfriend, Kurumi, arrives at the scene, and before she could know what was happening, the big guy and the nerd from the gang arrive to settle the score. Takashi quickly borrows his girlfriend's sword and asks she tells her to run away with Mui from Noah Williams, one of the greatest experts, and sets them to attack the girls. A few seconds later he realizes that he had forgotten about the spell that prohibited fights between wizards who used an astral agency in the ordinary world. This anti-fighting spell ends up coming into effect because he attacked Mui, which causes the nerd to feel unimaginable pain, and then the circle of black magic absorbs his power in life. Very close to her, Kurumi came into contact with magic due to the attack, ended up transforming into a magician, just like Takashi. Boy, and her power is very interesting. It will make for some great plots in the beach episode. After these beautiful scenes, a delinquent named Ida appears, holding a girl from the group of evil wizards. He says that she attacked out of nowhere when he was going to tutoring classes, so he acted with common sense and gave her a good beating. And when he entered in the scene he quickly looks at Kurumi and immediately asks when she got an implant. It's at this moment that his hand starts to burn because of his newly acquired magical powers. The big guy was patiently waiting for them to enjoy the screen time, but now he gets very angry and attacks Takashi, pushing him out. Takashi uses his prediction magic to dodge a powerful blow before predicting its movement through a cloud of dust and dodging again. He tells the man to give up, but the guy refuses and attacks him. However, Mui was ready to help and uses a powerful spell that ends up being a basic flashbang, which has the power to blind the enemy, giving Takashi the chance to land a precise blow to his enemy's throat, which spits out his lunch, and says goodbye to the world. After that Mui tells everyone to go with her and takes them into a parallel world inside a mirror. She says that this is the world in ruins, which in this case is the world of wizards, and Takashi is incredulous at everything he sees. The world in ruins is a kind of copy of the ring, where everything was destroyed due to the war. Then Mui takes them all to his wizarding school, also known as the Japanese Hogwarts. And if there is a school there is a principal, and the principal's name here is Momoka, and she is 15 years old and has 30 years of experience in making her students happy. She tells the new wizards about the great magical war that happened 186 years ago between the Ghost Trailer and the rest of the mages. It turns out that Kazuma, the leader of the Ghost Trailer, is literally the Voldemort of their world, and he used a god-level spell called the Last Recugion to kill all humans. But the other great wizards opposed him and faced him using their divine powers to split the world in two. Only one of the worlds was destroyed by the Last Recugion, and that world is in the world that Takashi and everyone lived in was the second world. Fortunately, the two groups of enemies reached a mutual agreement that they would continue their war only in the ruined world, and whoever wins would gain control of the world of the living. And to ensure that this agreement prevails, the highest level wizard called, or casts a spell called Gift on the world of Vio, so that the wizards could not fight using ancestral magic there. there. To make everything worse, all the humans who are attacked by mages end up becoming mages in the process, and after the end of the First World War, the leader of the Phantom Trailer disappeared and no one has any idea where he was. However, some people believe that he was in a kind of deep sleep after having used a gigantic piece as last refugium. After explaining the whole story, Momoku offers the three new wizards the option of staying at the Japanese Hogwarts and learning about magic, or just give up magic and return to his world. Obviously, having all his memories erased, Takes thinks quickly and decides to stay in this destroyed world to help Amui reunite with his brother. Ida, on the other hand, believes that this is all an adventure, so he has no problem staying there. Kurumi was initially hesitant, but she also decides to come to the School of Magic to be by her boyfriend's side. Momoku then puts all of them in Class C in their first year of high school, and also demotes Amui to Class C due to her reckless actions. The next day the class begins and the teacher tells the students about ancestral magic, which is unique to each individual. There are 6 types of ancestral magic, and they can be manifested through artifacts called aspects. For Kurumi, her aspect is her lip balm. For Ida, it's her cool skull ring, and Takes doesn't have any looks. The professor then examines him and discovers that he has the famous evasive magic, and after discovering this, he sends him with Amui to go buy a weapon. In the store they meet a cheerful shopkeeper who takes them to an armory. Takes initially is surprised, but then asks for a weapon with a katana, as he already knows how to use it. The shopkeeper gives him a debut sword with a magic circle in its scabbard. It was once used by a great wizard in war, and now he has retired. Takes asks who it was, and the guy says it was his mother, and she likes it. That's exactly what I said. The logist continues to inform, saying that this magical sword has an evasive magic written on it, and if he is compatible with it, his power will increase many times over, but if he is not, he may lose his power. Your hand. So as Takes wonders what he should do, the logistician suddenly attacks him, and he avoids and blocks his attacks, which activates the sword's magic. The sword reacts to Takes' magic and begins to absorb it to display its special feature. Then a cartridge for inserting bullets comes out of the sword's hilt moments before Takes falls to his knees due to exhaustion. The shopkeeper praises his endurance, while explaining that the weapon is like a cannon sword called Twilight, and he can use bullets loaded with other people's magic to transform his sword. Takes then takes the 3 bullets that the shopkeeper gave him and accepts the sword, saying that it will blow someone's head off. Hunting and cute sword. Soon he loves it and they are back in the classroom, which is completely burned thanks to magic of Ida, who got out of control. But the teacher says this is not unusual in his class, and the class continues. The next day, the trio goes to the training camp to learn some combat skills, and Takes has difficulty controlling his sword, and Ida also cannot use his magic correctly. Kurumi ends up being the most skilled among them, but so far she's only managed to get her magic to transform her into an only girl, which results in Takes becoming jealous of all the boys looking at her, and he has to deal with jealous while she is afraid that Ida will explode while practicing Ama. And seeing Kurumi's power, she comes to the conclusion that it is time to create a big plot and takes her with her to swimming class. And in the locker room she offers her tickets on a letter to the man whose love predictions were 100% accurate, and the girls are interested as they think that Takes might abandon Kurumi and be with them, but later they blush when they come across him and with Ida. As they talk about their dinner plans, some girls walk past them and insult Amo and her brother, calling her the traitor's sister. Amo gets up after hearing this, and instead of attacking them, she runs about communities, which are groups of like-minded wizards. There are 7 powerful communities in the world of magic, and their leader is the Wizard Bracer, which in this case is the group that defends peaceful coexistence with human beings. And the Ghost Trailer was not a Wizard Bracer. Amo and her brother and the girls before them were part of the Wizard Bracer, and as Amo's brother had joined the terrorist community, everyone consequently ended up hating Amo and calling her a traitor, the traitor's sister. Takes feels really bad for his mother because he remembers that his family hates him the same way. Later, they go to class where Takes discovers that some boys secretly took photos of Kurumi, and since he is her boyfriend, he confiscates all the photos, and while he was confiscating the photos, his master ended up hearing about he is in a relationship. This made her quite sad if she ran away, almost crying. Takes felt really bad for her, and this ends up making his jealous girlfriend insecure. In the end, Kurumi herself goes to the fortune teller, where the woman tells her that Takes will not be faithful to her and that her love life is practically over if she turns the tables and runs away crying. Later, her mother will look for her to apologize for stealing her boyfriend's first kiss. But first of all, she clarifies saying that it was just an accident, but she loved being naughty. Kurumi then runs to Takes and kisses him as soon as she sees him, but he stops her. She asks him why he didn't want to kiss his girlfriend, since he already did it with his mother, and he asks with great sadness if they can't stop pretending to be a couple now. These words shock and hurt the poor girl, who ends up ignoring Takes for a week, and then someone proposes to her. Thinking that she is single, Kurumi rejects him, but the boy approaches her from behind and touches her shoulder, which brings back memories of her trauma. She falls to the floor. Takes arrives from behind to rescue her, and threatens to kill the boy if he approaches her again. It's at this moment that Takes remembers that Kurumi was the most beautiful. If Takes opened his mouth and talked about how all this happened, but he preferred to leave his brother harboring great anger towards him. And so you can see how a woman can lead a bad person's life. Well, because of Kurumi, Takes and Geko ended up getting into a sinister argument. argument, and after an argument while they were walking towards the house, Takes lightly touched his brother. The boy fell forward, and a speeding car came wanting to send him to another world. However, he did not die, and was simply disabled for the rest of his life. Now Gakko still believes that his brother pushed him, and that's why he holds his grudge a lot. When Takes finishes remembering his entire story, Kurumi asks him to return their relationship to its previous condition. After all, she needs him very much, and he agrees. Then she realizes that he has lewd photos of her body in his pocket, and they take it away. But let him keep just one, so he can practice his sword skills at night. The next day Takes and Ida are training together, and Ida tries to fill one of the storage bullets with his fire magic, but he can't do it very well, and Takes can't manifest the cartridge either. Soon Kurumi comes running to them, and says that Mui is missing, and that she left a map behind. Before reporting a fact to the teacher, who concludes that she was looking for her brother the whole time, but the school cannot help him at the moment, as the principal is away. Takes says if the school doesn't help Mui, he will help her himself. His friends say this is a stupid idea, but Takes insists that he really wants to save Mui. After all, if it weren't for Kurumi, they would be developing a secret plot with Mui. Upon hearing the beautiful words of a man in love, they decide to help him, and find him at a gate where they hide and wait for the guards to pass. They follow the guards to the mirror, and emerge inside a protective barrier into the ruined world. A veiled woman sitting on a throne introduces herself to a gate supervisor, and says that the girl they are looking for did not come through the gate. She tells them to return, as a war is raging outside, when suddenly there is an explosion in the sky and a ball of black paint stains the barrier. The black ink soon turns into a wizard who is reduced to ashes by his enemy. Kurumi is terrified, and grabs hold of Takes. Meanwhile Mui is not too far away from them, and the day before she visited the fortune teller to ask about her brother's location, and the fortune teller informed where the guy is. Arriving at the place, her nervous brother tells her that this was a trap prepared by the fortune teller, who is a member of that terrorist organization, the horrible name, the Phantom Trailer, the desire to knock, and her coughing from that name. And now her older brother intends to take her to this living organization. His sister tries to remind her of the past, where she called him Diana-sama, and he was full of terror. However, he refuses to have any memory of her and grabs her by the collar. She then tells him that she gave him a gift, which in this case are the gloves he is wearing, and his memories return in small parts, but by then he was already absorbing her magic to defeat her, so he finishes of draining all her magic. Takes and his friends arrive at the scene, and Takes gets angry seeing his future girlfriend on the floor, and attacks Tsuga, asking him how he could hurt his little sister, said the guy who pushed his brother to get run over. Well, Tsuga doesn't care about any of that, and uses magic to increase his powers. Once done, he flies high, and then uses his ice spears against Takes, who dodges and blocks them with the help of his prediction, but he is not fast enough and is hit by the last spear. Tsuga decides to trap Takes with his ice castle, but Ito pushes him out of the way, and ends up being frozen. Takes is unable to free him, but Ida has the chance to act calmly. He remembers how Takes saved his sister from being kidnapped, so he owes him a big helping hand. Takes dodges Tsuga's attacks, and when he reaches the Mui and stands in front of her, the nervous guy realizes that he is just facing a beginner who doesn't even know how to use his power, so he decides to end it in a big way, using your hail bullets. Takes blocks them all with his sword, and sends some flying towards Ida to free him from the ice prison. He then carries the Mui to his companions, and tells Ida to charge his magic bullet, as this is the only way to fight against such a powerful enemy. That said, Takes runs to face Tsuga again, who descends from the sky to fight him. Takes dodges his ice attacks, and tries to overpower him with his ice abilities, but Tsuga doesn't carry his sword just to demand it. He pushes him back again, and uses his hail bullet again, and Takes' weak shield cannot protect him from the powerful attack, and as he is lying injured on the ground, the girls protect him, and Ida is about to finish loading the bullet to 100%, and Takes focuses on removing the cartridge from his sword. It is then that Tsuga attacks again with his ice spears, and the girls block this attack with their shields. Ida manages to load the bullet and throws it to Takes as soon as he manifests his cartridge. He carries his bizarre weapon, which now transforms into a flaming sword, and when the girls reach their limits, Takes uses a powerful attack called Explosive Fog. I would call it Devil's Sneeze, much better, you name it. The explosive mist destroys Tsuga's attack and explodes him. He falls to the ground, and the Muika will have him, but Takes says the battle is not over yet. Suddenly, the white-haired butler named Kappei emerges from the smoke and praises the talent of the new mages. This done, and he teleports to the ghost trailer headquarters as Tsuga. Later, Takes and the gang return to the school, where Principal Momoka is taking stock of her recent battle. She doesn't leave her role as director behind and lectures everyone, saying that the punishment for anyone who breaks the rules at this school is 1,000 fingerprints from the apothecary. Lucky for them, her finger is a little crooked, so she just asks them to promise not to try to do anything reckless from now on. But Takes refuses. He says he can't do that. After all, 1,000 fingerprints at the apothecary is a very interesting proposition. He also says he is sure that Mui will not stop looking for his brother. Then he says he will always help despite the danger. Momoka really likes his attitude and says that he will soon give 1,000 fingerprints to the apothecary, but before that she wants him to prove his worth by participating in an ancestral magic exam, which always takes place in the middle of the year. The exam will be held in a building created with illusion magic, and if Takes and his group manage to pass the exams, they will receive Momoka's permission to go after Tsuga. Takeshi asks about the 1,000 fingerprints at the apothecary, and she tells the boy to shut up and tell you about it. After a few months, the exam day arrives, and all the students are divided into 4 different groups according to the magic they carry. Now Takeshi and the other magicians who contain evasive magic need to reach the final part of a building in a city of illusions. Avoiding obstacles and traps, the students run towards the central building and come across their first obstacle. He out of nowhere sees Waigami and wonders what he is doing here. After all, Waigami is supposed to be part of Tsuga's gang, so Takeshi confronts him. So, Waigami says he's just here to take the exam and refuses to remember Takeshi or that he was ever part of the ghost trailer. In fact, he reveals that he was kidnapped by the wizard bracers and his memories were wiped so that he didn't remember the time when he hunted little girls in defenses. Later, Takeshi comes across a rhino which chases him through the city, and just as he is about to trample it, a glitch in the matrix saves him. In fact, this disturbance was caused by the members of the ghost trailer who infiltrated the academy field to wreak havoc during the exam. The city of illusions begins to disintegrate because of their dark magic, and the ground beneath Takeshi's feet disappears and he falls. But he makes a soft landing using floating magic and now finds himself in a labyrinthine garden on Kurumi's floor. A little away from him, a stone golem attacks Kurumi, but Waigami takes action and saves her before destroying the golem. She is shocked to see him and then realizes that he doesn't remember anything that happened on Earth. However, he was hit when he tried to save her, and this caused him to be withdrawn from the exam. After some time, Takeshi and his friends get together, and everyone is shocked to learn that Takeshi and Kurumi have become a kind of good Waigami, an evil guy with no memories of when he was evil and now a good person. They decide to stop the gossip and focus on getting out of this level before it too falls apart. They start looking for their way through this labyrinth garden, and when they are close to reaching the goal, a large stone golem falls very close to them, and Takeshi prepares to fight with it, but just one blow from the golem makes him fly. A powerful fire shot has no effect on him, and Wida doesn't even have time to concentrate her magic to attack the golem. Takeshi then tells them to use a fire sword combo attack again, and asks Wida that I gave a loaded bullet. He throws the bullet at him, but his aim is also horrible, and he is the direct shot. To save time, Mui and Kurumi divert the golem's attention while Takeshi goes to catch the bullet. The golem is about to crush the girls, but Wida blocks the attack with her fire punch, and at this point in the story Takeshi already has his sword charged. He then uses the stone golem's explosion button and destroys it with just one hit. A letter flies out of the remains of the golem and reaches Cardamant village, who is also a high-ranking member of the ghost trailer, a piranha. She was here to wreak havoc, but now that she's seen the Twilight Sword in action, she's satisfied. The next day, Kurumi reminds Takeshi of his promise to visit a shrine on his family's New Year's Day, but he doesn't want to, which makes her angry. She runs away crying, and while Mui tries to fix things between her and Takeshi, she realizes that it would be better for her if she didn't help them both. After all, her heart is beating for Takeshi. A few days later, Kurumi returns to her home in the world of the living, and Takeshi trains alone with Mui. During a brief break, Mui becomes delirious due to her fever, which gives us great images to lose the monetization of a channel. Editor: very large censorship, please no. The biggest ear can cover the entire screen. She pulls him into her bed, and they do more than just cuddle under the blanket. Soon she falls asleep and Takeshi has the chance to leave, but the moment ends up being horrible as Kurumi arrives in the room at that exact moment, and she is shocked and furious with her cheating boyfriend and kicks him out of the room and then does the same. Even with poor Mui, Kurumi then starts to stand at the door, and Mui comes back and runs to call Takeshi to take care of his girlfriend, who ended up turning into a baby when her emotions took over her mind. Outside, Takeshi is sitting nearby from the source, and he refuses to go back to Kurumi, telling Mui that that piece of shit isn't his real girlfriend. He tells her about the act he agreed to do to protect Kurumi from her pursuers, but he wants to stop all this nonsense, and this fight should be a perfect chance for that. He almost reveals that his sword wants a girl with hair black, but he remembers that this is a Japanese anime, so he must cultivate several girls at the same time, and it doesn't add up. As time passes, things continue to be strange between Takeshi and Kurumi, and one day Kurumi sees Igami in the library and goes there to thank him, and Igami acts like a real man, and he consoles her, saying that it's normal to have problems in your relationship, and Kurumi runs out because of the embarrassment. On the way, she ends up bumping into Takeshi, and things get strange between them again. A week after the exam results are announced, and Momoka gives Takeshi and his friends permission to go after Tsuga as they performed great on the test, she then gathers them in her office to lead the extraction mission, and gave Mui a bullet that contains binding magic which will be useful in capturing his brother without hurting him. What this binding magic is for, Momoka didn't explain. Don't blame me, blame the author. Then she creates a door in any place with her magic, and at the same time a group of monitors push an Igami and the girl called Rotaru from the ghost trailer into the room. None of them remember their past, but they are forced to follow Momoka's orders. Without understanding much of the situation, they just follow the school nurse and the monitors to the door. Takeshi and his friends also join them, and everyone leaves the world in ruins. Soon a magic circle forms in the sky, and a car appears from him. Tsuga and the white-haired man called Keepin got out of the car to exchange hostages between the ghost trailer and the guys, and how many names I don't even remember. It's at that moment that Igami finally understands that they were just hostages from the academy. academy so they could get Tsuga back. Rotaru fights, not wanting to go, but Igami tells her to calm down and follow him. Before they leave, Kurumi thanks him for saving her, and he tells her to be strong. He gives her a goodbye gift that makes her cry. The hostages are exchanged, and Kippen tells Igami and Rotaru to get in that car and that he will transport them back to their base, while Kippen wants to have a meeting with Momoka since it's been a few days since which he touches her thighs. Then the two go to a less crowded place to fight. Not only that, but now Tsuga has to deal with Takashi and his friends and extras. He uses his magic to increase his powers, but is faced with the teamwork of his enemies, Mui, and the two monitors. Get ready. While the nurse reinforces Takashi and Wida with her fortification spell, Tsuga attacks them with his ice spears, but the nurse blocks his attack with a wall of water. The two monitors surround him and create a giant key again that they use to open the floor. Tsuga falls into the bottomless tax, but manages to hold on thanks to his ice. However, the nurse breaks it, but he escapes from the well and arrives hurting everyone except our main characters. He flies away and Mui chases him. The nurse tells Takashi and Wida to go save her, while Kurumi stays behind to help heal the injured magicians. On the other hand, Muka and Kappei face each other in the sky. While talking about the old times when they both were teammates, Kappei says that she hasn't changed much mentally or physically since high school, and she comments that he changed a lot and became a villain. She says that he is her enemy now, and attacks him with her swords of crazy and hacking powers beyond human understanding, but Kappei dodges, and increases his magical power using the spells Drive and Liberate, which means these names I don't know. I only know that he uses a powerful spell that comes with a blunt to attack her, but she draws a black diamond shield using her compass and blocks it. Kappei then uses his ancestral magic to dissolve and spreads it throughout the area, stating that everything within his clash against each other, creating a huge explosion. They continue fighting and exchanging blows, but Kappei overpowers the girl and attacks continuously to push her back. Muka regains her balance and uses a powerful blow that cuts the bridge below them, but Kappei dodges. The girl then creates a portal and attacks him from behind, but he blocks the attack. However, this was just a decoy as she fires bullets at him from the front, while the compass sword attacks him from the back. And when Kappei jumps to avoid the pincer attack, the sword launches a chain that grabs him. Muka quickly throws him into her magic bread filled with high-quality TNT, and Kappei is thrown into the darkness. She thinks he must be dead now, but his magic is still damaging her body, so she realizes he's still alive. Suddenly a fountain breaks out of the sea, and Kappei comes out of it, saying that she should have made the walls in her basement stronger. He knew how her magic worked, saying that she could only create doors to places that really exist. He suspected that the room she threw him into was at the bottom of the ocean, and his hunch was completely right. Meanwhile, his dissolving spell was melting clothes and skin, and there were only a few minutes left for her to be completely destroyed. And as Kappei was dying to talk to Muka a little more, he tells her that their leader Kazuma will soon wake up from her sleep and then reveal her darkest secrets to everyone, saying that all her photos will be leaked since only Kazuma has the password. The girl is shocked to hear this and uses her ultimate magic to end Kappei once and for all, and her ultimate spell consists of creating a portal to outer space high in the sky, which sucks everything into it. If she were smart, she would have watched Hunter vs. Hunter and would have copied Phaeton's technique. That shit even killed an ant. Kappei uses a barrier to resist the suction, believing that Muka will die because of her dissolving spell before she can transform into a space traveler. However, a car is sucked while he is laughing and takes him into space with him. As soon as the fight ends and the portal closes, Muka loses consciousness and falls into the ocean. And while this fight was happening, on the other side, Takashi, Amui and Wida had already reached the 7 of the Ice Age, created by the expansion of Tuga's domain. Wida tries to break through the ceiling using fire, but this does not cause any damage, and before he can launch another attack, the ice castle's defense mechanisms are activated and ice spears are launched at them from all sides. As he dodges the attacks, Takashi tells Wida that they will use the fire sword Kumpo again. He arms the sword, but this time the attack explodes in his face and the sword flies away, and Wida apologizes, saying that he must have put a lot of force into the bullet. Takashi jumps to get his sword while dodging the ice spears, but when he reaches the sword, Suka freezes his mother. He means his hand, and Wida comes to help, but he keeps slipping. At that moment, Amui decides that she is a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a man and goes headlong into the fight against her brother. Takashi shouts at her to wait as Wida patiently melts his frozen hand, but as Amui ignored him, he tells Wida to melt the ice on his hand soon. Upstairs, Amui comes across Tsuka and asks if he is really happy in the ghost trailer. She tells him that her organization has a horrible name, totally out of fashion, and it doesn't suit him. She gets emotional, saying that his brother can't be part of a gang with such a horrible name, but he attacks without even warning, and when the trapped Tsuga finishes her off, a huge explosion rocks his castle, and Takashi and Wida ride in a burning pillar to reach Tsuga and attack him. They quickly protect and heal Amui, who continues using the power of speech on her brother, saying that he has always been a brother with good taste, and that if he returns to her side he can do whatever he wants with his body. She begins crying while saying this, and Tsuga, also without realizing it, starts to shed tears. Now we don't know if he wanted to be with his sister, or if he is overcome with sadness, and to see his sister offering even that to bring him back, he is shocked to realize that he is crying, and then the power, the flashback, has a lot of effect, and he starts seeing images from their childhood. hood, which makes him go crazy. Takashi and Wita run to face him, and Amui loads his gun with a link bullet. She prepares her final attack, which causes her weapon to grow, and then fires it at her brother, taking the hit and leaving him unconscious. And after a few days, Amui was sleeping next to her brother in the hospital, and is surprised by the rope, and discovers that Tsuga had come out of the coma and recovered his memory. She cries and hugs him, while he comforts her, and her friends are there to witness her happy ending. Later that night, Takashi has a nightmare in which he sees himself lying in a sea of blood. Kurumi rushes to save him, and cries over his body as a monster emerges from the sea of blood. As the dream ends, Takashi wakes up all pissed and shitted, so he takes a few deep breaths and goes back to sleep without even realizing that he pissed and shit himself, and that his sword is absorbing his magic to evolve from a sword into Kurumi. The next day, Tsuga trains Takashi and his friends, showing how he uses powerful spells. Amui thanks